Well, good evening, everyone. We got a special guest tonight, good friend of ours, Derek Nseko, without doubt, one of the coolest guys in African aviation. We got to know Derek a while ago. He was up in Johannesburg doing it was when Lyft actually first started up. And he gave us a shout. He said, guys, I'm in the area and I want to swing by your studio to come and say, how's it? So Derek popped into Sim Aero, had a chat with us, and we've been solid mates ever since then. I'd like to have had on the studio or in our actual studio at Sim Aero, but with the way things are, obviously not too easy to do that. But nevertheless, this is awesome as well. So Derek, great to have you on Brian Air Live.
Thank you, guys. I actually kind of feel like I invented Brian Air Live because I was the first person to suggest that you must have guests. You must at least start having some guests and some guest interaction. So yeah, man, thank you guys so much. And that wasn't really the first time that we actually met. We met virtually, so I really believe this connection is just testament to that power of these virtual social connections, LinkedIn and everything.
No, definitely, yeah, Derek. That's something we can talk about straight away, because this started as a virtual friendship, and we've actually become bloody good mates through this whole thing. So geez, over to you guys.
Hey, Derek, it's great to have you on the show tonight, man. Been looking forward to this for a long time, and welcome, man. Looking forward to the chat.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, welcome, Derek. It's been a while. I know we've been speaking about this for a long time. So finally, you're here, bud.
I'm a bit disappointed. No one said anything about my shirt because I feel like this.
Derek, as I said to you before, just have a look at behind me. That's you and Brian combined.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a whole story behind this shirt, actually, and my good friend, I hope he should be tuning in to watch. And you kind of give him a shout out in the last episode. His name is John Barcroft.
Yes.
Do you remember that name? Yeah.
Yeah,
so yes, he's right there. Yeah, John. Yeah. I call him Uncle John. We call him Uncle John at Aviators. And listen, actually, Aviators 2018. It's such a shame you guys have not been to Aviators, because I think it's just the #1 event in aviation on the African continent. Yeah, but back to the story of the shirt, 2018 Aviators, and we open up the event with some kind of like a cocktail. We do have a dinner event gala as well as part of the event. So I turned up for the cocktail opening event with with an African shirt at the time, which was my own. And throughout the entire Aviators, Uncle John was just in love with my African t-shirt. So at the end of the event, I decided to just, put together a little surprise for him. And I gave him a little souvenir, which was the African shirt. Yeah. And awesome. So Aviators, fast forward Aviators 2019. Uncle John comes back and he has another surprise for me. Yeah. And at the end of that Aviators, I got my beloved shirt. Yeah. Yeah. So I like this shirt actually for more than one reason, because obviously it takes me back to Aviators, which I love so much. But I have this thing, guys. None of my colors fit. All my shirts. Yeah. And this is one of only 2 shirts where actually my color fits. So it's a very special shirt in my wardrobe. Yeah.
Derek, we're chatting about Aviators and how cool it is. And obviously we spoke to John last week, and we said obviously there's lots of pros to having it live, proper in person, and obviously now through a virtual platform. tell us about it. I mean, we haven't been to any of these events, and obviously you made a career, or you are busy making a very strong career in networking in the aviation sector here in Africa, and I assume that those events are obviously play a crucial role in that development.
Yeah, and thanks for saying that, Brian. Like these events, and Aviadev in particular, because it's the one I'm most affiliated to. The very first time I went to Aviadev, and oh God, thanks so much, John Howell, for his generosity. I think that was a key point in my aviation journey, because it was almost like a door had been opened to a whole new world. Yeah, in the aviation industry. As pilots, we are more like technical people. We're a bit boxed in terms of our industry knowledge and our industry networks. We tend to socialize in certain very specific circles, and we tend to pick our knowledge specifically around the cockpit and around aircraft and things like that. But Aviator just opened me to a whole. I'm laughing at Leonard. Leonard is my close friend and business partner. Yeah, he's my business partner as well. Yeah, and it's the networking with the wider aviation industry, and that's the big deal, and that's something I've really done effortlessly. Really, I've tried my best to network as much as possible, and I've applied myself to the business of aviation as well, and to the people in the wider aviation industry. For me, events like Aviadev, they are such a key part of this, so I make an effort to attend such events as much as I can.
Yeah, it would be. It's such a pity that that event's not happening in real life this year, because I think so many more connections have been formed in the last sort of 12 months that it would be such an awesome event. But I suppose all we're doing right now is sort of firming these relationships up with the likes of yourself and other people around, and it's going to happen again in real life. There's no doubt about that, and it's going to be one hell of an event when it happens.
Yeah, to be honest, we have to appreciate all these different facets independently of each other. I think Aviadev has, the physical events, they'll have a role to play, networking, whatsoever. Yeah, but the virtual landscape as well just brings a whole new dynamic. It opens up different possibilities, and the scale and being able to network in a way that maybe we would never reach out to certain people the way that we managed to reach out to them right now. I think there's so much to appreciate as well from the whole virtual side of things. So I honestly just miss the physical interaction so much as well. So I can't wait for this whole thing to end and for these events to come around. Brett, were you saying something?
Yeah. No, I was just going to agree with you, Derek, because going to the events in Mauritius or all over the world, with all the live events, it's great. You get to see people. You can connect with 100 people in a day. But when you're online here, there's a little thing there that happens where you've got someone's attention completely and utterly. You don't have someone else introducing and joining the conversation, which is great in its own thing. But online, there's something about it that, Derek, you can't get away from us now. You're stuck on, and you're ours for the next hour.
I see I'm getting a bit of gas there for the lack of color on my side, and
I kind of agree. I heavily agree with Ian on that one.
Look,
Ryan, why black today? Why black?
Hey man, I didn't get the brief on colorful Hawaiian shirts. I was told
you know what happened.
Club, I came armed. So I'm just gonna let the color in my personality shine through instead.
You know what happened, Derek? I told Ryan that we've got Derek and Nseko on Brown Air Live on Tuesday, so he thought it was going to be a Men in Black exercise. Yeah.
You see now.
and yeah, I suppose though. Listen, it's in keeping with the brand theme though. Like actually, Ryan is right on point.
Yeah,
you guys are always in black, right?
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
You see, what we're trying to separate the live show from the formal show, so to speak. But it's interesting what you say there, Derek, because it's 100% true. These sort of virtual relationships that are being formed right now, we can't disregard them. They're kind of there, and they're quite solid. I mean, we'll take us for an example. I mean, I first heard you on a podcast with John, and we actually spoke about it quite a lot in our podcast afterwards, because it was one of my best podcasts of 2020. It was very positive about aviation in Africa, and the stuff that you spoke about on that podcast, a lot of it has actually come to fruition now. Thinking, well, what was that, about 8, 9, 10 months ago? So you can make connections in this new virtual world, and they're solid connections that are there for life. And for me personally, I'm kind of, I suppose I could even say we're lucky that we're in this pandemic, this situation, because you've got an excuse to phone someone like you in midweek and say, hey, Derek, we've got a live show on Tuesday. Can you be on it? And of course, your answer is yes, you'd love to be. But, go back a few years, that wasn't really the case. This pandemic has opened up the opportunity for all this collaboration. And when we get offered the opportunity, we all tend to jump at it. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this period because of that. I mean, if I think back on the last how many years of just being an airline pilot, we never had the lifestyle or the type of career where you made as many connections as this. And in the last year or so, making all these connections and building up these relationships with guys like you, Derek, it's been awesome. It's really, really a fantastic journey.
Yeah, but I have to give it up to you guys as well. Even not everyone is doing this. How many podcasts on aviation exist in South Africa, in Africa?
No one else is dumb enough, Derek.
No, so I mean, I'm just saying, you guys, you guys actually took a leap of faith. You stepped out of a comfort zone that you were in. It is definitely stepping out of a comfort zone, and just one of the joys of you guys being in my network is just to see the evolution and the growth that you guys are having. Like, we can see it every week. It's there for us to see. Every month we can see the way you guys are changing. You're becoming more confident. The studio is, like the equipment, and you guys are just, you're becoming the ultimate podcasters, in a way, So it's just brilliant. Yeah.
And some of us with some color attached, some of us not so much.
And Aviation for SA, Craig, he's just passed a comment there. He's one of those people I've met virtually, and I've never met him physically, But we're cool.
You're lucky. Yeah. You're lucky, Derek.
Am I lucky? I'm actually guilty. I'm guilty seeing his comment right now, because I've been writing a review for his app for about 2 months. I'm supposed to write a review for the Aviation for SA app for the Air News magazine, and I've been studying it on and off for about 2 months.
Derek, well, the longer you take, the more triathlons Craig is going to make you run. Do you know that?
Craig, don't worry, I'll be done soon.
Yeah, that Aviation for SA app, if you want any real life gen of guys that have been using it in at the sim center all the time, then please don't hesitate to give us a shout. We've obviously used it a lot, and it's one of those things where it's a little bit like a pilot not having a headset or a calculator in your flight bag. It's a must have. So
I recommend that as well. I had the one critique for the app. So I was writing my review over a month ago, and I had the one critique for the app, and I was writing it because I just want to be objective. And Craig comes into my inbox with an update. It's like, yeah, and it was literally exactly about what I was critiquing this app about, and he had changed that, and I'm like, oh, now I have to erase this.
Yeah, yeah, that's Craig for you. He's on the ball, but it is a fantastic app, and yeah, we've given away. We haven't given away all of them because we've given away 2. Craig offered us 3 licenses, so we've given away 2. They're going to be contacting Craig this week, and so 1 more to give away. So that was a hell of a nice gesture, and a lot of people have contacted me, but a lot of people I don't actually know have contacted me. Then I actually asked the one person, then commented about a show that we did, but it actually, the stuff the guy was talking about didn't actually make any sense at all. So I don't think he actually watched the podcast at all. So I'm not going to give that guy the license. So a few chances out there. Just saying how's it to some of our guests here. Janet always here. Dave Sands, how's it, Dave?
Yeah.
Hi, Janet.
You can pronounce. I can't. And
I've had a whiskey.
Going on and on. Yeah, geez. Our friend from India, and Ellen, of course, in there. Ellen's agreeing with you on the shirt there. Yeah.
What
so a lot of
do?
comments.
Yeah.
A lot of comments coming through. A nice viewership tonight, so it's really cool. But Derek, you obviously do a lot of things in aviation, and you've taken a path less traveled, so to speak. And I find it quite interesting because that's sort of the role that we're in now, and it's very different. I mean, you know, on the one hand, being an airline pilot, you're kind of in this cushy sort of job. It's an easy environment, and that's what you do. Now we're in this sort of phase where I'm not going to say you're always hustling, because that's not the right word, but you're always out sort of looking for opportunity, looking for collaboration, and and so when guys like you come along, obviously you take that opportunity, and get to know someone like you. It only helps towards this whole sort of collaboration effort that we're after. But you do a lot of stuff, Derek. One of the things that I'd like to chat about now, but your iFly Academy, you phoned me the other day to say you had a Rolls-Royce engine that was I don't know if it was available, whatever. Because you connected with Rolls-Royce in this whole your whole iFly business, which is a remarkable thing in itself. But iFly Academy is massive, and it's a huge. You're doing a hell of a lot for the growth of the grassroots level in South African aviation or African aviation, and I love it. But I'd like to hear more about it, because I think if more people knew about it, there would be, possibly there'd be more support from the outside. So please just give us a brief sort of outline of iFly, your iFly Academy.
Yeah, and thanks for that, man, because definitely awareness is important, and we've been doing this thing for a while now, to be honest, for a number of years, and it's been well documented. We've evolved as well over the years. So iFly started a few years back, and the academy specifically is just all about inspiring the next generation. And when we started this thing, I actually thought we were going to build a flight school. We thought we were going to build some kind of massive flight school and have all our programs fitting into this kind of flight school. But it was really centered on having a positive effect on society and bringing through people who did not have a chance or who did not have the opportunity to get into the aviation industry. So at that point, and even now, we really needed a buy-in from local government and wider industry, but especially local government. And we did not get that, but we continued to evolve. And the evolution really has been to really spread beyond just aviation, because we were initially all about just inspiring people to get into the aviation industry, and now we realize that there's a wider issue in the world, and we need and there's something more passionate as well on the grassroots, which is science, technology, engineering and mathematics, and all these core subjects that need to be instilled in young people to thrive in aviation and everything else. So we've come up with all these STEM programs, and yes, we are lucky to have a few partnerships that have helped us along the way. Rolls-Royce has been very, very key to that, and very thankful for them. Aviadev, again, they've always been our supporters. We are partners with Aviadev, and John co-founded an initiative called Aviators Africa, which was based out of Nigeria initially, and we've partnered with them on a few projects as well. Yeah, the iFly Academy, basically, most of the work has been based in South Africa, but our mandate really is for the African continent. We want to have an effect around the entire continent. But what we need is a buy-in. We need, these things, you can have as many ideas as you can, but if you don't have buy-in from the people in power and authority, you don't have buy-in from the wider industry. And by the way, the wider industry also needs to understand that the work that we are doing feeds into them eventually. At the end of the day, these young people, the talent that is being identified and being channeled these are the future leaders of industry. They're the future pilots at SAA, engineers at technical and whatever, So while industry has a role to play as well in being a part of that process, it's all about human capital development. Yeah, and I honestly believe as part of an African ambition to take Africa forward, or to grow our industry, human capital is a key part. Growing the human capital in Africa is a key part of that process. So we're just playing our role in developing human capital for Africa, not just aviation, but at the core, it is aviation, to be honest with you, because we are aviators and everything. But for everything, empowering young African people, to get into all these careers that maybe they might never ever have even dreamt of getting into, So right now we've got a STEM program, which is, as far as I'm concerned, it's still very, very small, and it's very scalable. But we're based in Port Elizabeth, so most of the work we've done is actually been based in our local community. I think we're starting to get some support from the local community.
Oh, I think
Derek's just gone off there for a sec. He'll come back, no doubt. But Derek, Derek's iFly Academy, it's no small thing. I mean, he called me the other day. He said there's a Rolls-Royce jet engine here. Can we use it at SimAero for training purposes? Because they were looking to place this engine. Probably came from SAA or something, but yeah, who knows? But that's the type of leverage he's got there. It's a big academy, and I respect him a lot because he's playing his part in the development here in Africa in a big way. So he's got that iFly Academy, and then he's also got Airspace Africa, which is a media platform, and the media platform in itself is a massive thing because how many times I think my fault more than you guys, Ryan and Brett, because how many times last year did we say, hey, we got to start an actual media company, because we collecting all the news, we were writing articles, we were pushing out as much as we can. You think, well, a lot of it's going to waste, because even on the podcast, you collect maybe 20 stories, but you only speak about or how many, 10 of them on the show, because depending on the way it goes, you might not talk about all of them. So his Airspace Africa, and like John said, John got into podcasting because it got tiring writing all these articles all the time. Anyway, here's Derek back. Derek, I was chatting about obviously sorry, man. No, look, that's the thing with being live. But I started going into Airspace Africa, just telling everyone that you know we were talking about media and the need to start a media company. I mean, John spoke about it last week on the show, how difficult it was actually writing articles and that all the time, getting the stuff out, collecting the news. You said something to me that was that I took a lot from a while ago when you met us at Samero. You said to me that, you know, Brian, what you're doing right now is building your back catalog. And no one had actually said that to me before. And after you said that to me, it kind of rang true, because, you know, you've got to build, if you're going to start any business or anything new, you have to start from somewhere, but you have to start. And it's those layers of whatever you're producing that count, because when people come and look at your business that you've created, they look at those layers. So you were one of the first, or the first person to kind of acknowledge that, because, you know, it took us a while. I'd probably say, Brett, I don't know if you want to jump in here, if you agree, the beginning, maybe February this year, where we kind of actually found our feet properly to know what our role is and what we're doing. Because you start something, but you don't always know. You take the first step, but you don't know the direction that those steps are going to go. And so Derek, you gave that initial little bit of advice there to say, hang on, you don't really need to know where you're going. You just need to, you're building your back catalog. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, and you know what? I picked it up from a podcast. It was John's podcast with a friend of his in Dubai. It's called Rush. I think you just need to look through it. Please watch the podcast. And he was talking about the archiving effect, you know. And he was talking about it in reference to John's podcast as well. You know, like, you don't just wake up one day and you have the ultimate podcast and you have the best content ever, you know. And if someone comes to your podcast today, or to your channel, or to your website, you know, for them to appreciate it and to, you know, to appreciate your journey, they have to see the entire evolution from where you came from. You know, you had content a year ago, you had content 6 months ago, and, you know, this is where you were at. So it's that whole track that it's actually a part of your present today as well, you know. So it's important to you today, to this podcast right now. It's important that you had a podcast 4 months ago. Yeah, no matter how great it was or how poor it might have been, you know, it's a part of the bigger picture.
So,
you know,
Derek,
I
got an important question to ask. Sorry to interrupt, but we've got a couple of guests asking where is iFly based, but you need to give us the name of the town, the new name.
Wow.
Don't worry, it's Tanya by our Canadian friend. There it is.
We call it GQ.
GQ. Okay.
GQ, yeah. Yeah, it's Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Yeah,
that's
GQ.
Yeah. GQ, man.
Sorry, I just had to
listen, and I started Airspace Africa just this year, and it was my own commitment as well to take the next step as well in my media journey in Africa. And that journey also just dawned on me pretty much at the beginning of the pandemic, and I just started becoming more and more involved with the media space. Obviously, my work in broadcast, especially with CNBC, and I joined A News at some point, and I did a lot of writing. I've got a passion for writing, and I started writing a number of articles for different. The writing really started from way before, but I think it really picked on. And I found myself so much more involved. You know, you think you're taking a certain direction, and then you look around you and you realize that, you know, most of the traction that is happening in your life is actually in a certain area, you know, and you have to be dynamic and flexible enough to be like, you know what, let me just take this opportunity, you know, and to continue to grow that space. So for me, that's what it was about. And I do love the media. And I started Airspace Africa to just, you know, to build my own machine, you know, my own media machine that is dedicated to African aviation. We don't have many of them. We don't have enough of them at all, you know, and we still have the information gap in the African aviation space. You guys are playing your role through your podcast. There's not enough podcasts. Either way, I mean, as much as you're doing great work, there's still not enough podcasts. There's not enough websites, or there's not enough magazines. There's not enough publications on African aviation. There is content, about African aviation, African airlines that you will never. You have to dig probably into some academic archives to find, you know. And we need to start documenting African aviation going forward. So this is part of the archive of African aviation going forward. We need. It's up to us. It's our responsibility, really, to shape the narrative around African aviation. You know, and it's not up to someone else. You know, it's up to us to shape the narrative, to shape opinion. You know, and to lead the church. You know, and to push our industry positively through our media channels as well, and to help our industry as well. We're speaking about a pandemic now, of course, to recover. We have a role to play in that recovery as well. So why not? You know,
Derek, sure, Derek. I love how your viewpoint on the media company and exposing African aviation. You often find people have this mentality that, hold on, there's yourself, there's John, they're dealing with African aviation. I know the guys have got it taped up. There's not a space for me. And just your entire viewpoint is there needs to be so many more podcasts, groups doing what you're doing, individuals doing what you're doing. And that is that mentality that you can share this. There's so much to go around that there's enough for everybody. And I often see the exact opposite. People always say, well, is there competition? Oh no, if there's competition, I'm not interested. There's competition in everything. You don't actually even have to compete. You can share. And it's a different mindset. And I love that you got that.
Yeah. And I think, once you get to understand that, I think it's beneficial for all of us and for everyone, because we do need each other, and we need to collaborate, you know, as African media in whatever aspect. So when I started Airspace Africa, the first thing I looked out for, I'm like, okay, I don't have a podcast, but why don't I find an angle in which I can collaborate with the Brian Air podcast? And my first thing was, okay, I need to create a podcast page on Airspace Africa, that the Brian Air podcast, if someone accesses Airspace Africa as maybe their go-to platform to pick up information about African aviation, they have the option of finding a podcast, an amazing podcast that can enlighten them even more about African aviation. You know, I have nothing to lose from that, you know, and it's the people who come to my channel, they have everything to gain, and to my platform. You know.
Derek, nice comment here from Alan. Obviously, you're saying with the demise of SACS and SA, your involvement in the development is going to be even more critical going forward, and I think that's very, very true. I know with us at SA Express for many years, you know, we did play a role in the development of young pilots, you know, previously disadvantaged pilots moving forward in the industry. And obviously, you know, with the way things are right now, you wonder how cadet programs and things like that are going to work. But what I like about what you're doing and iFly Africa, this is not just about pilots. This is about aviation as a big business. And I think for me, I've been very, I'd say almost had blinkers on being a pilot, because, you know, when you're a pilot, all you're thinking about is the airline itself. What aircraft do they fly? Where do they fly? How long are you going to be away from home? And all those sorts of questions you ask yourself as a pilot. But there's so many more elements involved in this whole thing. And your iFly Academy, going to be one of the biggest academies in terms of developmental growth in Africa moving forward, or certainly post 221.
Well, Derek, I've got a question for you. When you were speaking about your academy, and you made a comment that the leaders are not supporting, and it's not just your initiative, and it's not just in Africa. I think it's worldwide that the leaders are not getting behind this type of building a community, building a skill set to eventually push into the market. And it just once a community starts doing this, it's amazing how the community heals itself and the growth comes from within. Why do you have any input as to why the guys, the leaders, governments, whoever it might be, are not stepping up and standing behind and supporting initiatives like yours?
Well, it's a very, very good question, to be honest with you, and I don't have many answers to it, but I can tell you we definitely need visionary leadership, and there is a gap when it comes to that in our leadership. I think most of our leaders really are more obsessed with their positions, as opposed to their roles. So leadership is all about the positions and not their roles. Our leaders don't come into their positions to play a certain role, or because they've got a certain vision, for industry or for society or for whatever. They come in to be in those positions, and that's it. And whatever benefits come with that. It shouldn't be difficult, to buy into, because I do not need to convince you that my program is important for society, because there's tangible evidence that, and there's feedback, that there's an impact that is being made. There's an impact that is being made on a day-to-day basis. So I don't need to say much to convince someone, to convince a leader that this is important, And you spoke about SAA and these cadet programs and everything, and and we've had this issue in South Africa as well, where obviously there's this whole transformation debate, and black pilots and this and that, and it's been over 20 years since the political revolution happened. But for me, even when it comes to such programs, my belief is that there's no holistic approach. There's no real strategy around changing the narrative around such ideas. Like you don't just throw a cadet program when you've not and expect some form of transformation in the industry, when you've not gone to transform the industry from the grassroots, when you've not gone into the community, and build from the ground up. You don't just go and throw bursaries, at people. That is not a long-term view to the solution. That's a piecemeal approach, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly those out there that have received those bursaries who weren't really, never really had the desire to become pilots in the first place. And unfortunately, I've seen it as well a lot in my career, where there's a lot of wasted opportunity on some of those people, where they were forced into this career. They don't really develop all that well in it, and it wasn't through any fault of their own. They were thrust into this, And
I can tell you, there's a lot of people who deserve some of these bursaries, but they still cannot access the bursaries. Because the framework of doing this has not been thought through. It's lazy leadership still.
Yeah.
Derek, nice comment here from Ian. just about your inspiration, where it came from, because obviously setting up an academy like that is no small feat, and I assume, well, I know a lot of the work that goes on behind the scenes, unless there's support from corporations from the outside coming in, there's no massive funds being thrown your way to do it. So without people like you doing these things, they simply do not happen. It's a critical role. I mean, Brett, jump in here with our situation in at Samero with regards to technicians for the simulators. Quite frankly, there are none in South Africa. Very, very few simulator technicians around, and it's a critical space in the aviation sector. And without development in that area, it's simply not going to happen. And unless there are people like you that are doing stuff to promote engineers and I'm not even going to say pilots, because we're talking about technical side of things here. I mean, Brett, you can back me up on this. Technicians on simulators, they don't exist.
No, it's pilots. We understand. If we look at pilots, we got Nigeria. You got a lot of young guys coming out of com licenses, 250 hours. They've got a sponsor somewhere, jumping on an ERJ conversion, whatever it might be. I deal with that 10 to 20 a day. But go out there and go and try and find a technician to maintain a simulator. There's just they're just not there. You can't find them. You search far and wide, and the ones that you do find, you have to import from Brazil, because there's just nothing in the country. And it's not because there's a lack, and I'm a little bit lost as to why, because there are engineers studying these type of things. But hell, where to find them, I have no idea.
Yeah, it's quite a, I'm not going to say a strange thing, because you kind of expect it, but it's a major lack of expertise in South Africa, certainly. And again, on the engineering side with iFly doing a great job, Derek. Ian's question there about the inspiration. Guys, where did our inspiration come from on the podcast? I mean, Derek's given us a nice boost there about us and starting this whole thing. Next week we're having a friend of ours on, Mark Mason, who I know is watching tonight, and he's gone off and started something new. And to start anything new or anything at all, you need inspiration. You need something behind you, some sort of fire underneath in your belly to go and do it. And sorry, Ryan.
No, I was going to say to sort of answer the question you were saying there. Thinking back to the middle of last year, the inspiration that we got from getting this started and trying to make a good success of it was purely from that desire to make something out of nothing. Having lost our jobs and everything in the beginning of last year, those few months of like, where to from here, and obviously changing that mindset, deciding screw it, we're gonna do something and try and inspire and motivate and spread a bit of a positive attitude and vibe out there. And the podcast was the best platform to do that from, and that's where the inspiration came from. Certainly from
it had nothing to do with Friday morning whiskeys. Right.
There was a big inspiration in that as well, and more so now that they.
Tell me, how did you guys? How did you
guys
come together to do this? Like, were you already a whole band of naughty guys that just said, "Yeah, one evening over your whiskeys, like, yeah, guys, let's do this"?
You know what, Derek? We've been extremely lucky in that we've had I've had a group of very good friends around me all the time that we've both been working with at Samero, but we've also had the podcast side of things, and the podcast has grown and grown and grown. And it's got to a point now where it's become it's become like this machine, and it requires a lot of work every day. And I know I have to pull in Ryan and Brett, away from their families, away from their sort of social lives, to actually to keep this thing running, because it's become a bit of a beast. But Ryan said something there about, we had lost our jobs and we had lost everything. So that got us to the point where we said, hey, let's go and, let's just give this our all. But why does it have to be that way? Why do you have to go through a situation where you've lost everything before you decide, hey, I'm going to actually go and do what the hell I want to do? I mean,
I can answer that. Sorry, Brett.
Go for it.
But to be honest, we were chained to golden handcuffs in our careers at Saks, and we were too scared to leave that comfort zone. So, truth be told, Brian, it was a question of being forced out of your comfort zone, and that's exactly what led us here. And that's where we've tried to maintain that we stay out of. We've tried to not let ourselves get back into a comfort zone since we started this. So, yeah.
No, good answer.
But there's another factor there with the three of us, which was that we'd, I thrown out of you lost your jobs. You had 1,000,001 other opportunities to do something as opposed to start a podcast. One, it's difficult. Two, it's early hours in the morning. We got to do it, late night preps, and you get no money for it. So really, if I remember clearly, it was a case of saying we want to help the community. If we just talk and one person says, we love what you said, that helped me through this difficult time, and we've had more than one person come to us and say those exact things. So for us, that was the big thing. But it wasn't even motivation. We made a commitment between the three of us to say, this is what we are going to do. We commit now. Every single Friday morning, we're going to push a show out. Come hell or high water, that's what we're going to do. And people might listen and say, well, that's easy because it's three of you and you're all there and you're mates. You can do it if you're alone. If you've got one or two people who are not involved in the show still, or doing a publication or media house or whatever it is, but they're there to support you, trust me, you'll have that commitment, you'll have that drive, and every single day you will work on it. So it's just a different mindset as opposed to waiting for the motivation, because the motivation will never come.
Sorry, Ryan, a quote that I love by Phil Heath, who's a 7-8 time Mr. Olympia bodybuilding champion, is hard work will always beat talent unless talent works hard. And I like to think that we had a little bit of talent, and we try to work hard at it. And I think it's the consistency that wins. If you're consistent, you win. And Derek, obviously you've done that. I mean, that's your calling card. You're just consistent. When you think of African aviation, like I said with John last week, I think of Derek, and you've been involved. You mentioned the companies earlier. A lot of sort of household names in African aviation, and now you've gone off and started your own names, and I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah, well, I totally agree with you with the whole consistency and persistence. That's you really need that, to be honest with you, because it's not easy. You're making sacrifices, and as Brett said, you might not be looking at a return from your bank account, and you still have to find reasons to get up and work hard at what you're doing. But it makes sense. Like, I mean, with my initiative at iFly, I get a lot of feedback. You can see the impact that it's making, and with Airspace Africa, I know in the bottom of my heart that Africa needs this, and Africa needs more of this. And my goal is really to build the #1 platform, at least from a publishing point of view on the African continent. So my goal right now, I really want to push as much volume as possible. I really can't do that myself alone. So what I really want to do as well is to use the platform to empower the next generation of content creators in African aviation. And that's something that I'm passionate about. And I want to do that because I think it can now be an opportunity as well. I can position it as an opportunity for people to pivot in their aviation careers. For people who maybe are passionate about aviation, maybe you might be great at writing, but you don't know how to find an entry point into the aviation industry. Airspace Africa is there. You can become a staff writer at Airspace Africa and just push aviation content on a daily basis, So I want it to be a platform as well for some. I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be a platform for African people as well to be empowered to get into the aviation industry in some shape or form, as much as to inform. Yeah.
It's
And
great
as
what
much
you're
as
doing, Derek.
the writing, Derek, it's opened up an opportunity here as well, because there's so many other media platforms available, like podcasting even. I was never the greatest writer at school, so it was obvious you're going to go into the voice side of things. But there's a lot of people out there that are very good at writing, and that's where a space like yours, it really opens up. I just want to ask one thing here. I mentioned on our podcast last week, there's a website that's called the Air Current in the States. A guy, John Ostrower, they write almost a weekly article about in the aviation sector, but it's not news based in terms of they getting the news in and they're reporting on the news. They're able to take what they see in the industry and decipher it and then write something of their own. Do you think there's a lack of that at the moment? There's a lot of news reporting this is what's going on, but what I like, when you post something, there's always something attached to it. Like when you post something like this is good for this or that, and I really like that. Sorry, Ryan, I jumped on you there, but I just wanted to jump in on that point there. Go ahead.
No, it's cool. This is the challenges with live broadcasting. But I was going to just say on Derek's last point, it's great what you're doing, Derek, because not only are you highlighting all the different facets of aviation and the career opportunities available, because I think most people out there only seem to think of aviation and the careers available as pilots or cabin crew, and there's so much more to it. It's a big industry behind the scenes, and what you're doing is really getting it out there. So it's great, man. Good job.
Good job.
Yeah, and I can't wait for you guys to come to the physical Aviator, hopefully in Madagascar. So we can chill with the rest of the industry. I think this podcast has been a great tool as well to position you guys, not just the Brand and Podcast, but you guys as personalities as well in the aviation industry. So I think the next step as well is that physical interaction with most of the people who have passionately interacted with the Brand Air podcast virtually, and so I think you're gonna get a lot of those moments when you go to a conference and you're like, yeah, you're the Ryan guy, from the podcast, so yeah, I think it's awesome. I think it's awesome what you're doing, but in terms of information, really we need to do more, and we need to find a way to empower more people as well to be a part of this chain of pushing this content out there, and the relevant content, and pushing and informing the African aviation space, not just the African aviation space, but the African population generally about our industry. So what you're doing is not just for aviation enthusiasts, it's for everyone, and we need to try and find those angles. I think sometimes I'm very I really think about it sometimes, even with the content that I write, because I would like to write content as well that is for the normal person who is not an aviation professional, for them to be able to read a piece of aviation content and enjoy it and be informed, without actually seeking it out because the aviation people.
Yeah. No, Derek, where can people, I mean, where's the best place to find you? Obviously, there's a few of our contacts have been watching tonight, and I just a shout out to Jason.
Thanks a lot, Alan.
Yeah, Alan and Jason, and a couple of new people as well have been commenting. It's awesome. Thanks, Mywell. He's
thanks a lot.
Yep,
And
thanks, guys.
Yolanda, who sent me a message just now. Thank you. Yeah.
Where can people find your stuff, Derek? Where's the best place to contact you? We obviously are big supporters of LinkedIn. We like that as a platform to connect with people. I reduced my connections last week from I think 1,950 people to 850 people. So I did a massive clean out last week. So I'm looking to rebuild my network again there. But where can people find you? Obviously, you've got a lot going on. There's iFly, there's Airspace Africa, and of course all the big sort of name brands that you've been attached to. But where would you like people to go to find your stuff?
Yeah, and you know what? I also still need to trim my connections the same way, and I don't know how you did that, to be honest with you. But it's no surprise. Yeah, it's no surprise that we met on LinkedIn. I think it really is the best platform to connect from the aviation point of view, and I'll always make time for that. And I think I'm very reachable from LinkedIn. But I think if anyone is watching this and they want to reach out for some specific reason, they can always send me an email as well, derek@airspace-africa.com or derek@ifly-global.com. But LinkedIn is not a bad place to come and reach out to me. You can connect. You can always send a direct message or whatever, and I'll definitely respond.
No, awesome. Thanks, Derek, and for everyone watching tonight and all our loyal supporters that always seem to come and support us from across the globe. We really do appreciate it. We can't do it without you. Obviously, the live show relies on people asking the
Have we come to the end of the show?
Yeah, we've been chatting for an hour now, Derek. So my glass is empty, so I've got to get back to the
Derek,
the kitchen.
That's when you know the show's over, when the whiskey's done. Huh? The show's over.
Wow. There's still so much more to talk about, to be honest. Because
there is.
Look, this is not the last time we're going to have you on the show, and I'd like to have you in the studio in Johannesburg. I think there's a lot to talk about there. And obviously in a slightly different atmosphere, when you're in a studio, we can tailor it a little bit more closely and go a little bit deeper into a subject. But I think that's what makes us cool, is that there's kind of two elements to this podcast at the moment. So just thanks to everyone and your people. Yolanda, we mentioned her earlier. Thanks. She's been a big supporter. Going to catch up with Yolanda after I've had my little Bambino. We've arranged that. Alan, Tuesday Whiskey Club, he's named it for us. Janet, and there's some more from Alan, Dave, and thank you to everyone. I really do appreciate it, and we look forward to doing this again next week. We've got our ex-colleague on the show. Sorry, I didn't kick Derek off. Yeah, shot off.
It looked like you did.
Yeah.
I think we battled a little bit with connections tonight.
It's a little bit. It's difficult, the whole thing, particularly thanks Eskom and Telkom. Who they owned by?
The government.
The same people that own SAA.
Exactly. Guys, a shout out to Andrew Evans as well. He's a loyal supporter of our show. He's obviously been watching, and I think he's in Hong Kong at the moment. It's 2 a.m. in the morning there. So
thanks, Andrew.
Dedication and
that's proper dedication.
Okay, I'm back to say goodbye.
Thanks, Derek. Yeah, sorry, I didn't want everyone to think that I kicked you off there earlier because I was playing around. I was playing around with the mouse when you went off. So, thanks everyone. Thanks for a nice show tonight, and everyone that supported. We'll be back on. We're doing the Brian Air podcast. We'll do that that'll come out on Friday afternoon sometime. And then again next week for the Tuesday live show with our good mate, as I said, Mark Mason. So thank you everyone for your support, and can't do it without you. What's so cool with this is that you meet up with your mates every week without the situation we're in. Thank you, really appreciate it.
Really
and
cool. Thanks, guys.
Look forward to doing it again. From my side and everyone else, I'll say goodbye for now.
Bye.